Natalie Lloyd is the New York Times bestselling author of novels for young readers and the young at heart. She's a collector of old books, listens to bluegrass music, and loves exploring quirky mountain towns with her dog Biscuit. She's the author of A Snicker of Magic and The Key to Extraordinary and lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hummingbird is her seventh novel for kids and has been called achingly brilliant, a gorgeous book so brimming with hope, poetry, wonder, and love that your heart will have to double to fit it all. That is from Jeff Zentner, Morris Award-winning author of The Serpent King. So without further ado, please help me in giving a very warm virtual welcome to Natalie Lloyd. Take it away, Natalie.
All right, thank you so much, Dana, and thank you all for inviting me to spend some time with you this afternoon. I love RJ Julia. I can't wait to visit in person someday, and I'm so excited we get to do this virtually, and I get to tell you about my new book. So, Hummingbird is book number 7 for me, and that's so exciting because I can remember when I didn't think there would be one. I don't know if any of y'all are writers, if you're querying novels, but you know that can be a process and the rejection can be tough. So that's still close to my heart. I still think about it every time a book comes out and I get to see it on the shelf in stores like RJ Julia. So I'm very grateful for the support you're giving it and the excitement you have over it. I'm excited too. And here's what this book is about. So this isn't a snicker of magic. Hummingbird is Olive's story. This is Olive on the front. She is 11 years old and she lives in a tiny Tennessee town where she is homeschooled and she's not loving it, because there's no homeschool co-op. There's nobody her age around her. She doesn't really have any friends other than her parents and a pet pelican that showed up at her house that she fed, and now it just kind of stays. But she is longing to have a BFF of her own. And to do that, she thinks she needs to go to the new middle school. It's called Macklemore, and it looks so exciting. But her parents aren't loving the idea because Olive has a brittle bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's the same brittle bone disease I have. And because she breaks her bones so easily, they're a little bit nervous about the idea of her being around so many kids. So they're hesitant, but Olive keeps pushing. She keeps trying to do this. And finally, she gets through to them and they let her try it, and it's a disaster. I don't know if you've ever had a disastrous day, but Olive's 6th grade day is pretty rotten. Other than a few little highlights, it's tough. And so from there, she thinks maybe she's made a mistake. Maybe she shouldn't have done it at all. And then she hears a legend about a creature in the woods who grants wishes to anybody brave enough to seek it. And she decides she is going to set out to make the deepest wish of her heart come true, along with the help of a mysterious new associate. And in the process, she sets off a bunch of magic in her town and in her own heart that she never saw coming. So if you've read any of my novels before, some of those themes might sound familiar to you. I love to write about magic, especially magic in a world that looks very much like our world, a very ordinary day. I love to write about friendships, and Olive gets that. There are always animals in my books because I'm an animal lover too. And all of those quirky, weird things about school. Olive has her first crush. She has embarrassing moments. She has wonderful moments, but there is something about Hummingbird that makes this book so special and so unique for me. And it's because Olive and I share the disability I told you about. We both have brittle bones. And at first, when I pictured Olive in a wheelchair, I was okay with that. I thought, okay, I am so great writing a disabled character. I'm disabled. I think it would be so awesome to see more characters in books with all kinds of bodies, but I didn't want her to deal with the hard stuff. And what I mean by that is I just wanted her to have a real ordinary, everyday kind of experience. She's having a big adventure. She's meeting people. She's doing all these things. I didn't want it to feel like an issues book. I didn't want people to read it and feel sorry for Olive or feel sorry for me. So at first, When I wrote about Olive, she was in a wheelchair, just like I was in elementary and middle school, and sometimes now if I'm recovering from a broken bone. But that was kind of it. It was kind of an afterthought. And then I kept writing and writing, and the story never really had a heartbeat. And I couldn't figure out why. I thought, oh, I'm writing all of my favorite things, all these things I love, but the book just doesn't feel genuine. So I had many long conversations with my editor. Her name is Mallory Cass, and she's the absolute coolest. And I finally realized it didn't feel real because I wasn't looking at Olive's whole experience. When I was 11, when I was Olive's age, I did have all of these cool things she has. My parents were and still are totally awesome. I had a best friend who I dearly loved and swapped Babysitters Club books with all the time, rapid pace. I loved adventure. I was always looking for magic in the world. But middle school is also when I got kind of frustrated with my body because I realized my body wasn't changing like everybody else's. I didn't like the way mine was changing. I didn't like that the bones in my legs were bowed because of my OI. I didn't like that I was so much shorter than everybody else. I read every day during recess, and now I realize I wouldn't have loved dodgeball anyway. Like, I just wouldn't have been an athlete no matter what. But I started to feel kind of left out. And that made me sad too. And I thought, gosh, what if all these big dreams I have, maybe they just can't happen because my bones are fragile? What if I don't get to fall in love someday, which I kind of wanted to do someday, way far away? I thought that would be awesome. What if I don't get to have big adventures because I'm using a wheelchair or walker or because I'm so fragile? And so those were tough. There were great days and there were hard days. And when I started writing about Olive, actually experiencing the good and the bad, that's when the story made sense to me. So she still has all of those things I love to write about. She still has magic and friendship and a first crush and wonder. And there are all these weirdly wonderful, eccentric people she meets in her town. And she has a pet pelican that's so weird and funny. But she also has a disability. And sometimes it's really at the forefront of her mind, and it frustrates her a lot. And that's when the story all came together. And now I'm really excited about what it's become. So, to give you a taste of Hummingbird, I would love to read a little bit to you. And then I would love to hear questions that you have, whether they're about the book or about writing or about my dog. You might be able to hear barking in the far distant background because he would not get in his crate. I would love to hear from you. But first, here is a little snippet from Hummingbird. This is from chapter 1. And it's called Fragile as a Falling Star. The first thing I remember about that fateful morning is Uncle Dash swerving my family's van into the parking lot of New River Church. That's our weekly tradition, mine and his. We get breakfast together, then ride to church and catch up on life. The tires screeched when Dash parked. Late, as usual. Dolly Parton was howling about Jolene on the cassette player while I sang harmony. Dolly Parton is my favorite person I've never met. Well, my second favorite. My first favorite is my future BFF. Everything felt the Sunday same until Dash cut the engine and went still as a statue. Oh, shoot, he said. His eyes went wide as quarters. Oh, Lord, we got a problem, Olive. What's up? I asked, even though I had a theory as soon as I saw his pale face. Oh, listen to me, I said gently. Breakfast tacos from Big John's are a bad idea before church. I tell you every week. It ain't the tacos, Uncle Dash said. His mouth barely moved around the words. He stared out into the crowded parking lot, steering wheel clutched in his tattooed fingers. I looked straight ahead too, but it looked the same as always to me. Just a gravel gray lot with an old stone church rising up ahead of us. Blackbirds perched shoulder to shoulder in a long, inky line along the rooftop. Fluffy maples stood guard all around the lot. The trees were leafy green again, blooms bursting out of twisty limbs. April had barely started, but summer was already close enough to send love notes across the mountain with its warm winds and scatters of wildflowers. Above it all was a sky the same color blue as my favorite shirt, the one I wore last year on the first day of school. I'm homeschooled, but I still believe in the power of a first day outfit. That's back when everything was normal, back before I knew Hatch Malone existed, aka the good old days, but I'm getting ahead of myself. All in all, it seemed like an ordinary day, but it wasn't. Beginnings are sneaky like this. I got the flutters, Olive, Uncle Dash said. His voice sounded all drifty and dreamy. I think change is on the wind. He'd barely spoken that last word when Luther Fry hobbled past the car wearing his best white shirt and overalls. Luther's pet ferret, Gustav, sat perched on his shoulder, tail fluffed around Luther's neck like a fine scarf. That's nothing new or change-worthy. Gustav and Luther go everywhere together. Do you want to talk about it? I asked. I pushed the heart-shaped sunglasses up into my hair. I always wear a heart somewhere on my person. It's my signature symbol. Uncle Dash used the edge of his necktie to wipe sweat off his forehead. I thought it was acid reflux at first, but it's been getting worse all morning. Now it's like his cheeks inflated like a puffer fish. Like my heart's too full. Something's up today. I'm plumb sick over it. I don't even know if we should go inside. And from there, all kinds of magic starts funneling through Olive's world and through her heart, and her adventure begins. So that's just a little taste of it. I don't want to give anything away, but I am so excited for Hummingbird. And if you give it a chance, I hope you love it. I hope you lose your heart in the pages. One of my goals when I'm writing is to write flashlight books, books that people want to stay up reading at night. That's what I do with my favorite books. I can't put them down. And I also hope maybe somebody who reads it feels the way I did and needs a reminder that your body's awesome and you deserve to take up space on this planet and you get to do whatever you want. Better days are coming. Nothing about my bones affected the dreams I had. They're even better than I thought they would be. But Hummingbird is my reminder to the girl I used to be that good things are coming and magic is still out there. So I want to hear from you if you have any questions. Dana, do you know if anybody has any? I would love to chat about it.
We do have some comments here. There's one from Marie who looks like you are newly discovered to her and says you sound awesome. She has CP and is asking what it was like for you to have disability in middle school. Hers was not fun.
Mine was not fun either, Marie. And that's what I was talking about earlier too. And I said, at first I didn't want to give that to Olive. I think I also didn't want to revisit the hard parts. I just wanted to think about the good. But the more vulnerable I got with this story, writing about how hard it is sometimes for Olive to feel like she belongs, how much it stinks to have these limitations, I thought that was good too. Very early on in the book, Olive says she is not anybody's inspiration because she's disabled. This is her real life. And sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it's really hard. And that's how it was for me. So it was tough. And I put lots of those experiences in the book for her too, for her to work through. And I think she keeps looking for the good and also sorting through the bad. And both things are really important.
Is writing something, Natalie, that you've always wanted to do, or how did it come about for you?
I love that question. So the first thing I wanted to do was live inside a book. I thought there had to be a way. And I started with the Chronicles of Narnia.
That was going to be my next question. Which book?
So for me, it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That was the book that made me a reader for life. I loved it so much. I should have pulled it. I have the copy back here behind me. I had a copy with a map in it, and I would crawl into my closet and I would shut the book with my finger on the map and fall asleep because I was so confident I could wake up in Narnia and I was going to know where I was going when I got there. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I still love that a book could feel that real. It's like I could feel what Lucy felt when she went through the wardrobe, and I could see the world through her eyes like she saw it. And that was one of the books that made me talk to my parents and my teachers. One teacher in particular, I named a character after him in this book. His name was Mr. Watson. And I remember telling him one day, I was like, listen, I love the books you read to us. I love to read. How do people write novels? How does Anna Martin write all these books? I thought, gosh, she probably lives in this beautiful, mysterious castle. Or R.L. Stine probably like lives in the Bat Cave. He may actually live in a Bat Cave. I don't know. But I thought they had these very big, exciting lives. And that's what made them writers. But he told me to be a writer, all you have to do is keep reading and keep writing. And you get better and better the more you read and write. And that gave me a lot of hope because I could definitely do those things. And so that's kind of how it started. I didn't start writing novels in third grade. I wrote poems that are really terrible that my parents still have. I wrote songs. I started a classroom newspaper with my friends. I was just trying to figure out what kind of writing I loved. And then over time, little by little, I kept moving toward that big goal of having a book.
Yeah, wow. So then that's a great piece of advice that your teacher gave you. Is what would be your advice for someone that's trying to get published for the first time?
Oh, so I would definitely piggyback off that advice. I would say keep reading and keep writing. I don't know any writers who aren't readers. They may have not liked reading at one point in their lives, but at some point they found a book or a series and it stole their heart. And then they started writing their own story. It's like it unlocked all the stories they wanted to tell. So keep reading and writing. And I would also say keep living with a wide open heart, which probably sounds kind of cheesy, but pay attention to the beauty in the world and the sorrow in the world. Write about the people you love, the people you miss, all of those things that are directly connected to your heart. I think that's where the best stories are.
And I think that completely comes through in your writing. You can feel the love and
you.
Absolutely. A question pertaining to Hummingbird. What would you ask the wish granting hummingbird for?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I don't want to spoil anything, but at times Olive and I have probably had the same wish. And so I'll leave that part at that. Oh, there are so many things I would wish for. There are, one of the rules the hummingbird says, like life and death are not controlled by the hummingbird. So you can't really wish for those things. Those would be the big wishes for me, that people wouldn't be sick, that nobody would be hurting anymore. I think if I could wish for something, just something fun, like if I could just find the hummingbird and get something cool, I might wish for a Starbucks in my house. I might wish for the ability to teleport because I'm always running late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I might wish that my dogs could actually talk to me. I feel like I understand my dogs already. I might not even like what they say if they can actually talk to me. But those things would be fun. And I'm excited to hear what readers would wish for as well. Those are just some silly ones, but Olive and her stepbrother Hatch, they both have pretty serious wishes that they're trying to track down the hummingbird for.
Oh my gosh, I'm with you on a lot of those wishes. I think I can understand my cat pretty well though, too. I think that just happens with your animals and you. Someone just commented in, thank you so much for this book event. My daughters and I love, love, love your novels, Natalie, which I have read aloud to them many times. Sometimes when I read a particularly delectable line you've written, I stop and read it again because it's just too good to hear just once. Do you have any lines that you've written or read that have taken your breath away?
Oh, I love that question.
Me too.
I am often rendered breathless by the beauty of books. I wish I had prepared for this because my mind is blanking over how many there are. I have been reading Erin and Trotta Kelly lately. She writes some gorgeous lines. I love Christina Soontornbot. I think she writes these breathtakingly beautiful books. Kate DiCamillo. I think what was the first DiCamillo book I read? It was probably Because of Winn-Dixie, and right after that, it was The Tale of Despereaux. And I think I could have underlined every sentence in both of those books. You read from Jeff Zentner earlier. He's young adult, but he's one of my favorites just because I love the beauty of the language and his stories. Dan Gemeinhart is another one who writes beautiful books. I have no shortage of books I'm inspired by. I think it was one of Christina's books, A Wish in the Dark. That was one of the flashlight books for me that I could not stop reading. I was so breathless over those lines. I woke my husband up in the middle of the night to read him one. He doesn't get that way about books like I do. He loves to read. But I don't know that he was like thrilled that I had woken him up for it. Those are some of my favorites. In this one, let me find one of my favorite lines in Hummingbird to share.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, one thing that was kind of fun about writing this is that I started writing it just in prose, like a regular book, and then parts of it just started breaking into verse. So, you can see that in the story, like, most of my other books, but then these scenes would come up and they were fractured. And so I tried to write the book both ways because I thought it has to be one or the other. It can't be both. And at some point, another conversation with my editor, Mallory, whom I adore, she was like, why can't it be both? Why do you think you're writing into both things? And for me, when Olive was thinking about her body and what frustrated her about it, like, Marie's question was leading back to earlier, that's when it fractured. That's when the sentences broke. And it made sense to me that it was doing it. So this is very short, but I can read it to you. This is one of my favorite parts. It's chapter 3, and it's Candy Bones. Osteogenesis imperfecta. It sounds like a magic spell if you don't know what it means. Like words you'd whisper over muddy sludge to make the wildflowers bloom. Like words you'd holler up at the storm to clear a path for sparkling stars. It might sound like magic, but right now, today, it feels like a curse. It's the curse of bones that break easy for no reason. Candy bones, glass bones. OI is the reason I am fragile. Femur, patella, socket, tibia, fibula. More magic sounding words that are only bones, bones that are built to connect and grow and build a body, but mine weren't built right. That's what I believe. Grandpa Goat says I'm not correct on that account, that God made us all and God don't make mistakes. But I don't understand why God made me broken. I've asked God this question plenty of times. He hasn't answered yet. Your bones look like lace on the inside, Dr. Cass told me once. And that's the problem. If I lived in a novel, I could have bones made of lace or ribbon or icy spider webs or sharp shafts of rainbow light. But in this world, a girl needs bones made of concrete, a heart made of steel. I'm 11 years old, but I already know that's true.
Oh my God. That is so beautiful. Was it hard to write?
It was.
Or did it just pour out of you?
It was. I was talking to my friend Kristen Tubb about that the other day, who's written so many beautiful books. She asked if it was hard to write the vulnerable parts and how I did it. And I don't think I could have done it if I didn't get braver with every revision and keep digging a little deeper. More because I'm afraid to share those things that I'm so insecure about. It's like the persona that I wanted to present was like, oh, I'm disabled, but I'm so confident now. I'm an adult. But I still have insecurities about my body, just like Olive does. So the more real I was, I think the more real the book felt.
And it's no matter what it is, everyone has something that they can feel relatable in that moment and feels that way. So to be vulnerable like that, thank you very much, because that, powerful and beautifully written, as all your books. The process of 7 books now, has it stayed the same for you, or is it evolving with each new publication?
I wish I had one process. I love to hear writers talk about process because I keep thinking I'm going to find the one that's the magic one for me. And I still haven't. I feel like Stephanie Perkins came the closest once. I don't know if this is true for her now, but one time at an event, she said the process was different for every book. And that's kind of how I feel. I usually start out with a very loose outline or just a few pages of a synopsis, and I think I know where the story's going. And then I start writing and things start happening and the characters do things I don't expect. And I imagine things I don't expect. And that's part of the frustration, but also part of the beauty of it. I don't think I would want to do it if it didn't surprise me like that while I was drafting it. So every process has been a little bit different so far.
It's like no matter how much you want to take your characters and put them in this little mold, they run off with their own idea of how
Yes,
they
that's
want to live through the book. It's incredible. Wow. So, okay. I know we talked about this a little bit before we went live, but can you talk a little bit about the cover art? Because I am actually obsessed with it. It's absolutely stunning.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it too. So the cover of Hummingbird looks very different from my other books, but I think it went a really cool direction. It's got that dark, glittery magic that's in Olive's world. I love, love, love that she's on the front. I think representation in every area is so important. And I tried to remember, did I ever see a character in a wheelchair on the cover of a book when I was a kid? And I don't know that I did. Even on TV, the only character I remember in a wheelchair was like Zach Morris when he played wheelchair basketball.
I remember that.
Whatever. But well, I love that she's there. She's in her wheelchair. You'll notice her name is on the back. She has her name spelled out in glitter. My wheelchair was not like that. I did not have a bedazzler. I could never save up my allowance that long, but I would if I could have. It was designed by Chris Stingle, and Leo Nichols did the cover art, and I think it's beautiful. My favorite thing about covers, they give you like a glimpse of the story, but there's still some mystery, and it makes you want to look inside it. And even if this weren't my book, I would want to look inside it. I'm so happy with the work they did. So
it jumps right off the shelf. I mean, cover art is such a big part of someone picking up a book that they might not have been looking for. And I have to say Hummingbird is absolutely jumps right into your hands. And it doesn't disappoint because it's got every bit of magic and love and mystery wrapped inside there. Question for you from Paul. What was it like to read the audiobook version of Hummingbird? And full disclosure, this is from Natalie's audiobook producer at Scholastic.
It is. So Paul Gagne is a kindred spirit. He produces so many great audiobooks. And years ago, he heard me read a little bit of A Snicker of Magic, and he told me I should read the audio. And I was like, absolutely not. That seemed like too much of an undertaking. But really, I had heard some of the actresses, some of the tapes they sent in reading for it. And I thought, there's no way I can come close to that. And then the finished product was always so good. He picked the best actresses. Cassandra Morris did some of my books, and Kate Simsies did the others. And they were enchanting. They did all the voices. And I really wanted young readers, especially, to experience the story that way. I thought it was so fun. And then, you know, my Southern drawl for 6 hours, I didn't think anybody would want that besides my parents. So I hesitated. But when he asked me about Hummingbird, it just felt right. It felt like the right time. I thought, if ever there's a book I'm going to do it with, it's this story, because it's so personal and so close to my heart. And from the beginning, I kid you not, the thing that shocked me was how much fun I had doing it. He set me up with the greatest people. I worked with an acting coach, audiobook coach named PJ Auckland, and we had a ball. I think it was like a 3-hour session, and it flew by for me. It reminded me of doing theater, which I was never good at, but really like to do. And we had a great time. Then I got to go in a recording studio, and I felt kind of like a cool musician or something. You know, I have zero musical talent, but I love music, but it was kind of awesome putting on the headset and having a mic. So that was so much fun. I met the sweetest people doing it. Zane Birdwell directed it, and he was wonderful. The guys who had the sound studio were so much fun. And telling the story, even though I read all of my books aloud, every draft I do, I read books aloud. I always say I read them aloud to my dogs. So I had read it aloud before, but being very intentional about it like that was really fun. And it was such a special way to interact with the story, even though I didn't think there was another way I could interact with the story. So I loved it. He was right. I had a great time doing it.
Would you do it again for a future book?
You know, right now I'm saying no, I would leave it to a professional, but I don't know. He might be able to talk me into it again. It was pretty fun. So it's a maybe.
Well, it's nice you were able to do, especially the one that you felt, you know, you had this vulnerability, you released it into the world, literally in your own voice, and all you. What are you reading now that you maybe have some extra time on your hands?
I do. I have a little bit of time on my hands. I just sent in a draft of my next book to my editor, and that is when I catch up on all the fun reading. My favorite book that I have read recently is The Midnight Children by Daniel Meinhardt. It comes out later this year. You will love it. If you love mysteries, if you love his writing, I say every time he has a book out that it's my favorite one, but this one really is my favorite one. It's so good. So that's been the star for me lately. And I'm looking forward to a book called The Miraculous by Caroline Starr Rose. I know her heart behind that book is very personal. We both have family members who have Parkinson's, and I know her journey with that was part of what inspired her to write this book, even though it may not seem connected. But I love knowing the heart behind a book, and I know that's going to make it very special when I read it. So
Absolutely. Do you have any books that were, I know you've named a bunch, but as a kid, one that was specifically, was it Narnia that was like your basically like Bible that you would walk around with? That was it. Did your parents ever find you passed out in the closet?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was such a quirky kid. I don't think it would have thrown them for a loop at all, though. I think they would have probably just quietly shut the door and let me do it.
Leave Natalie alone. She's resting.
She's in the closet again. Even when I go to IKEA, I do a Narnia check around the wardrobes and stuff because you just never know. But I love Narnia. Roald Dahl books were some of my favorites, like The Witch and Matilda. Those were incredibly fun. And I was obsessed with the Babysitter's Club. Obsessed. I grew up in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have a bookstore, but when we went to Knoxville, which was like the big city, Knoxville, Tennessee, we would go to the B. Dalton bookstore in the mall, and I could always get 2 Babysitter's Club books. And I would look forward to that for weeks. They were so much fun. And I also love Judy Blume, and so does Olive. We have that in common. I remember exactly where the Judy Blume section was in my school library. I think I checked out Blubber a billion times. I remember at one point my librarian was like, we have other books besides Judy Blume and the Chronicles of Narnia, right?
Like, that doesn't matter.
So I'm definitely a comfort reader.
Well, I know Hummingbird has only been out for a couple of days, so most of our listeners probably haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but I'm excited for all of you when you do. What is your biggest hope for them once they read the book that they can take away from this?
Oh, I love that. Hard question too. One, I just get excited when people actually finish a book. I know there's so much competing for your attention and your heart, and I can't believe people give any of their time to stories I've written. So that's a big deal. I hope you have fun with it and love it. I hope it makes you laugh. I hope it gives you lots of joy. When Olive gets excited, she says she has joy kaboom. I hope the book feels like a joy kaboom for you. And then deep down, I also hope maybe there's a reader like me who, whether they are saying it or not, they feel some discomfort in the body they're in. I've always said my relationship with my body will probably be the most complicated one I have in my life. And so far that's holding true. I'm grateful for it. I also sometimes feel like it's working against me, even though it isn't. And I hope they see some of that reflected if they felt it and know that they matter exactly as they are. They get to take up space however they want, and they've got a huge story ahead of them with so many great parts to look forward to.
Huh. Well, that's beautiful. And this book really is something that you can feel like you're not alone in the world after reading, and it's just beautiful. We do have another question. How many of your characters are based on people that you know?
So that's an interesting question. Sometimes I feel like it's all of them, even if they're not directly connected to people I know, because I grew up in a town, was very close knit. I grew up in a family that would hang out together a lot. People always want to know if there are other writers in my family. And I don't know if there are. If they're writing, they haven't told me about it, but I know there are tremendous storytellers. And so I have definitely based some of these characters off more of the very colorful, eccentric personalities I got to be around then and now too. I love people who are unafraid to live their own original wild lives and just be totally themselves. So definitely, I think there's some similarities in all of them.
Drawing inspiration from whoever crosses your path at some points.
For sure. And I always tell young readers that too. I'm like, listen, you can eavesdrop and call it research. Base them on your favorite people. You can even base it on people you don't like. I just learned from my friend Seal Ballinger, who is on here, whom I adore, that Rick Riordan actually based a character off his math teacher. And I think it was a not good character. So you can even have revenge on people through your
You don't know when those feelings are going to come back, and you can harness that feeling for creative energy. Have you seen the new Babysitters Clubs now?
I have. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think they're beautiful. And I love graphic novels. I love that that's the format so many people get to experience them with now. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
I agree. Sorry. Well, I just am so thrilled that you were able to join us tonight. We are so excited for your book. We are so excited for whatever is coming next. We know it's going to be fantastic. Is there anything else you want to leave your readers with before we wrap for the evening?
Oh gosh, I'll just say thank you again. Thanks for giving your heart to it. Thank you for reading these stories. It means so much to me. And thank you all for inviting me to be on here and share more about the book and why it matters to me. I'm super grateful.
It was our pleasure. And everyone, reminder that Hummingbird is out now. It is available for purchase. You can get it online or in store at RJ Julia or Wesleyan RJ Julia. And Natalie, congratulations. Well done. We're just excited to follow you along on this journey. And we hope to see you in store very, very soon.
Oh, for sure. I can't wait to visit. Thank you all so much.
Have a great night, everybody. Happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.